Alright guys, section 5 here, hyperbolas. No, it's not hyperbola. Okay. Um, Now hyperbolas are very similar to ellipses in like their equations and just variables and stuff like that. So this section is really mixed up with that section. So I'm going to ask you to take good notes and pay close attention to how it works. Okay. So hyperbola. Here's a definition. An ellipse is a set of all points in a plane. The sum of the distances between P and two fixed points are constant, but a hyperbola is a set of all points such that the difference of the differences between P and two fixed points, the foci, is constant. So those are just definitions of ellipse and hyperbola. Okay, so if you look at a picture, it's a set of all points P. So any P that you pick, any point on here, if you take the difference of the distances, this distance and this distance, it's going to be one number. Okay, always. If I pick this and I figure out this distance, I subtract, it's going to be the same number. That's how a hyperbola works. Okay, ellipse works a little different. Now, here's some of the things you got to know. A line through the foci intersects a hyperbola at two vertices. So here's what you have. So you can see in the picture. Here's a focus in here. Here's a hyperbola has two branches. 1, 2. You've seen this before actually. Like 1 over x. That's a hyperbola. Now, these two are called the foci, or each one is a focus. And here is a vertex, just kind of like a parabola. That's a vertex of parabola. And there's a vertex too. You don't see this on this one, but if I connect the two vertexes or vertices, I connect those two, this is called the transverse axis. Write that down, okay, because you want to know is the transverse horizontal or is the transverse vertical? That's going to change your equation up, just like the ellipse. Is the ellipse this way or this way? Is the transverse in this case this way or this way? Okay, so hyperbola center always 0, 0, but it's always the midpoint right here. In these cases 0, 0. Hyperbola has two branches and two asymptotes. Now here's something different too. There's going to be an asymptote going this way, and there's going to be an asymptote going this way. That those two branches will never cross. Okay, this is the tricky part of hyperbolas. So we're gonna get there. All right. Let's see. What's the next one here? So here's just a couple pictures. Notice the transverse. So if you didn't write this down, here's a vertex. Here's a vertex. Notice your vertex is, in this case, A0. But if it's upside down, it's going to be 0A and 0 negative A. But these two are A0 and negative A, 0. What else? The transverse is horizontal in this case. Always draw a line there. The focus still deals with C and negative C, right? So focus is there inside of the two branches, and you see your two asymptotes. Okay, there's going to be a way to figure that out. I'll write this equation down here. X squared over A squared minus Y squared over B squared equals 1. Very similar to the ellipse. Once again, people mess these two things up all the time. Here's a little note for you though that's different. A does not have to be bigger than B. That's a key note right there, because remember, ellipse, A has to be the biggest one because it's the major axis, right? This case, A could be smaller, bigger, doesn't matter. So please understand that part right there, or you will put wrong numbers in. Okay, now B doesn't have a name to it. Okay, doesn't have a name. B just helps us find this asymptote and this asymptote. So if we find A and then we find B, what we do is we draw a box and then we can draw straight through the corners of the box this asymptote, find the corners of the box, and draw this asymptote. So those are the main components of this hyperbola. With the transverse axis is, it doesn't say, no it does say horizontal. Okay, write that equation down, label this picture. Now what if the transverse axis is the other way? Right, like this. Okay, transverse is right here, connecting the two vertices. Vertex, vertex, vertex still deals with A. In all these cases, vertex is A. Vertex 0A and then 0, negative A. The B value doesn't have a name. There's no covertex here for hyperbolas. Write that down. No covertex. Just B. Just helps us find the asymptotes right here. Okay, the asymptotes are big. Focus. Since the focus has to be on this line, that's why it changes up. 0, negative C, 0, C. There you go. Yeah, the equation down here. Write that equation down. Y squared over A squared minus X squared over B squared. And what do you notice if you compare those two equations? The only thing that moved is it either, the other one was X squared minus Y squared. This one is Y squared minus X squared. Notice A and B stayed the same place. And once again, A does not have to be bigger than B. Okay, so if you have a vertical transverse up and down, as soon as I think that, I think this equation right here, Y squared minus X squared. Okay, and then I can go get my A and my B and my C to find my vertex, focus, and then my asymptotes. Okay, we're going to use this in a little bit. Just write that stuff down. You're not going to remember all these letters and all that kind of stuff. Okay, write it down. Alright, I would write this down, or pause the video, write these things down. If this is your equation right here, X squared over A squared minus Y squared over B squared, then it's horizontal, right? That you should know. That's like, okay, I get that. Here's your asymptotes. You know how your asymptotes are like this? Well, this line here is Y equals positive B over A. X, whatever those two numbers are, let's say that's 2 and 3. This is Y equals 2/3 X, and this line would have to be Y equals negative 2/3 X, okay? Whatever it is. So negative B over A, alright? Two asymptotes. One's positive, one's negative. And then if you have a vertical one, if it's going up and down your transverse, Y squared minus X squared, right? You have A over B. You know that these two things get mixed up all the time too. People just forget. You got to know what you're doing, okay? You got to study hard for this stuff. Alright, your vertices, alright? 0 plus or minus A, comma 0 in the horizontal case, or 0 plus or minus A in the vertical case. Once again, don't memorize all this. Just draw pictures and it helps you understand. You don't have to memorize. Oh, is A first or second? Alright, you just draw a picture and it's like, oh, hey, A has to be first because the vertex is on this axis right here. Okay? Now here's the last part. How do you find C? Remember we found C for ellipse? Here's how you find C for hyperbola. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. That gets mixed up all the time too. You guys know that. You guys understand that, right? So please study this. Here's how you find all the things you need to find. A, B, C. It's all right here within this slide. Mark it all down and use it. Okay?